work with the children. And the foremost that comes to my mind is that we actually don't have to do much. We know this child has this fabulous nature in the way his mind works. If he's around it, if people around him love it, if his life is full of it, and he gets an opportunity to interact with it, we know he's going to incarnate it. I think that term is quite a significant term, and Montessori uses it in a text, this incarnate, this idea of make mental flesh, that you can't leave it behind. It's going to be with you for the rest of your life. You don't have to be an environmentalist, that's not what I'm saying. You don't have to be a gardener, but that love for the world, the love for the world that we live with, that can stay as an indelible part of that child's life. We understand that, we really do understand that, and many schools really go out of their way to create some fabulous environments. In their limited spaces, they create some beautiful spaces for children. Those who have the luxury for larger spaces create some lovely spaces for children. But unfortunately, what happens sometimes is after we create these beautiful spaces, we defend these spaces from the children for whom we created them. So we don't want them to touch the flowers, we don't want them to go near the pond, we don't want them to, be close to it because the beauty will get lost. But the very fact that we created it for them to be in the midst of beauty is important. But just being in the midst of beauty is not going to be something that's going to last forever. It's not. We cannot look at it and say, wow, that's fabulous, but after some time, it's not going to do anything. If our children don't have the opportunity to interact, to really connect, and that can only happen through the work of their hands, we know that. Their hands are the only way that connection is going to happen. And if they don't have an adult who can make that possible for them, to link, to connect, without prejudice, without bias, without imposing your personal views about it, if the children don't find that possibility to use their hands to interact, this incarnation is not going to happen. And it's this hand and that work that will feed the spirit. That spirit in turn will propel the body to find out more, and that body in turn will give the spirit the fulfillment. And we're in that cycle of what Montessori talks about, body and spirit, body and mind. And that's something we must consider in our work with the children. I understand we are consumed by safety, absolutely. And we saw that, we feel it ourselves as teachers. I would be lying if I said I wasn't afraid when the children were out playing and we had a very wooded area. And I wouldn't be lying if I said I wasn't concerned. But it comes from knowledge, it comes from knowing how to create safe spaces, how to help children interact with their spaces safely, how to equip them to move around in their spaces. And that's very important for them to be safe in their spaces. Telling them it's not going to work, and especially with our children, it's not going to work. You have to do this, and sometimes we sit in a large circle and we're doing the circle time and we say flowers are precious and bees need their flowers. Telling them this is not going to work for them unless they're out there washing the bird feeder, unless they're out there taking the weeds out of the plant, unless they're out there cleaning the space we've created for the animals in our spaces. Unless they're out there doing that, it's not going to work for them. Recently I was reading The Discovery, and there's a chapter on nature in that book. It's a fascinating chapter to read. But one of the things that caught my attention in that chapter was this idea of limitation. I never thought of it with the outdoors. I understand it inside the prepared environment. We talk about, just necessary, sufficient, no clutter, and that the limits are necessary for the child's mind, for the intelligence he's building, and it's just enough. And we say this a lot, right? How much should you give? Just enough, not too much, not too little. And the same holds for the outdoor environment. You don't have to go out of your way, it doesn't have to be vast pieces of land and vast spaces. It's just enough that they can physically find their space, physically orient, physically explore it, and just enough that they can mentally understand their space and connect with it. And then that is a very important aspect even in our outdoors. I've been looking recently at a lot of human tendencies and interconnectedness, and we heard a lot in the morning, we heard a lot after tea break. And if we are helping our children grow to be those adults in the future, this love for their world needs to start now. It needs to begin now. It's not something they're going to do later on. Thank you.